everybody, and welcome to ToutSuite. That's ToutSuite.com. Today we are celebrating harvest in the wine country, and what better way to do that than to celebrate with the people of Livermore wine country. Livermore Valley is one of the oldest wine countries. Back in the 1800s, they've been harvesting grapes. So we've got some of the founders, well, not the founders of those valleys, but certainly their families. Here we have Steven Kent Mirassou. Yes, we do. And we also have John Concannon and Chris Chandler. Each of them have a strong place and position in the Livermore Valley, and we're going to learn all about them. We're going to learn about some upcoming events in Livermore wine country. lvwine.org is definitely something to remember because that's a way to find out about all of the upcoming events and each of these wonderful winemakers. We're going to start here with Steven. We're going to try your wine lineage and do a start with that. You've got some French lineage to talk about.
Yeah, well, we're all from someplace, I think, ultimately.
Probably true.
And my family came from Bordeaux, just north of Bordeaux, from a town called La Rochelle in the 1850s, and started making wine in what's now Mission San Jose in 1854. We're the oldest winemaking family in the country. 6 generations. We're actually celebrating our 160th anniversary this year.
Wow.
And Livermore Valley has been our home for the last 18 years. 18 years about, and we couldn't be happier being in really what was the first great wine growing region in California.
That's fantastic. And so, I mean, with a wine called lineage, I guess that makes a lot of sense. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
Well, I thank my wife for naming the wine. It was the name that I had was not nearly as good. When my dad and I started the Steven Kent project back in 1996, Steven Kent, first and middle name, couldn't use Mirassou. The family already owned the brand, as it were. We wanted to make one great wine from the valley. We knew the history of Livermore. We knew that Livermore Valley was perfectly situated viticulturally to grow world-class Cabernet, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and that the first great wines from Livermore, the first great wines from California were Livermore wines. First international gold medal. The history is there for people to see. And nothing had changed viticulturally, so we knew that we were starting out with a great kind of base for trying to create one iconic wine from Livermore Valley. As things happen, you end up making more and more wines if you have a tasting room and the like, and 15 years later, 20 years later, I got back to a point where I wanted to revisit that idea of one iconic wine from Livermore, one wine that could compete with what I thought were the world's greatest Bordeaux blends. And lineage started back in 2007. The 11 vintage, which we're trying today, is a product mostly of our estate vineyards in the eastern part of the valley, Guillemette Vineyard.
Okay.
And contains all 5 of the classic Bordeaux varieties, and is sort of an homage, as it were, to my family and to my vision of what's possible in Livermore and what we really all ought to be striving for in Livermore Valley. Because we, in my opinion, don't take a backseat to anybody in terms of what's possible there, quality-wise.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely true, and this is a fantastic wine.
Thank
and
you
the
very
Mirassou
much.
family, I mean, there's a long lineage there, obviously. And
A lot of years.
If I understand it correctly, your father actually, I think, told you that there wasn't going to be much there for you, and you kind of went a different direction and then circled back around.
It's funny. I told my dad I wasn't interested.
Okay,
I worked at the family winery as a kid. I discoursed champagne, in the warehouses when I was 13 years old, and drove forklifts and all kinds of stuff. But I wanted to get away from the family. The family had been in Santa Clara Valley for 4 generations. I needed to see a larger part of the world. Went to the East Coast and got fit, as they say, and realized that it was really what was there for me, what was really calling to me subconsciously maybe at that point was being where the circles are, sort of the circles of my family's experience for, generation after generation, the circle of the harvest and the growing season. I always remark to myself how amazing it is that my great-great-great-grandfather, Pierre Pellier, who brought Pinot Noir to North America, to California, in 1854, was doing the same thing at the same time of year as I'm doing 160 years later. It's a pretty amazing thing to think about, all these resonances and echoes that you get from a family business, especially one that's agricultural related.
Right.
And it's something that compels me to continue to do what I do and to have that kind of be fuel for that fire that happens every year. It's an amazing thing.
That's very cool. And since we're here celebrating harvest, why don't you tell us a little bit about what that entails? In the Livermore Valley. I mean, from the picking of the grapes. I mean, most of you out there probably have not harvested grapes or much of anything, and here we are, part of the annual tradition, something you've been talking about with your family since the 1800s. What are some of those specifics? What do you
harvest for us starts next Tuesday.
Okay.
And we'll be bringing in some Pinot Noir for sparkling wine cuvee, so low sugars. But we'll be harvesting red grapes probably in the next 30 days, let's say. And that involves obviously picking fruit, bringing it into the winery. And for us, it's very old school. We have small fermenting bins that we use. We do manual punch downs. We do a lot of cold soaking. So we'll be, during the course of harvest, we'll be working 18-hour days, starting 5 o'clock in the morning, bringing fruit in, making sure that fermentations are happening the way they're supposed to happen. You smell anything stinky, you deal with it at that point in time. And what you want to do at the end of harvest is put to bed something that has a great potential to be glorious 3 years down the road when you finally release the wine, like with Lineage, for instance. And so there's a lot of thought that goes into the kind of barrels we want to put the wines into ultimately, and how long we want to be in barrel, how long we want to do extended maceration, all of these questions that we ask ourselves as we go into harvest. And then harvest could sometimes throw you some real curveballs, and you deal with that as it comes along. You've got, volatile reactions happening everywhere, so you deal with these things as they happen. You get hopefully dry ice on hand, and you've got stuff that can cool things down rapidly. But there's nothing more glorious and spectacular than being in a place where fermentation is happening, and this raw product, this beautiful fruit, grape juice that ends up becoming these magical wines, is an amazing thing that happens over a course of about 3 weeks, and it's the best. If Disney had a ride like this, the lines would be 10 miles long. It's awesome.
I'm sure you know a lot about that.
It would be one of those A rides, right? None of those E tickets. Those are A tickets.
That's right.
And so there's actually a specific celebration that you're going to be hosting at Steven Kent, right?
The harvest wine. Chris will talk more about the specifics of this, but the harvest wine celebration is the first. It's a Labor Day weekend. It's a Sunday and Monday of Labor Day weekend, traditionally in Livermore Valley, and all of the wineries are doing special events. They have musicians, and they have food vendors, and they have artistic vendors and the like. And at Steven Kent every year we have great bands, and we do special tastings in our cellar. People can experience our small lot, higher end wines. But it's a way for us to share the spirit of harvest with folks, like you said before, who don't have a chance to see experience that firsthand.
That easy, romantic, it's wine country experience that everybody expects.
And one of the neat things about this year is we'll actually be harvesting grapes.
Okay.
We'll probably have red grapes off and in the winery by the time
August 31st.
31st and 1st of September. We'll probably have Sangiovese off the vine and in fermenters at that point in time. So it's a real special way to see the breadth of the incredible quality and the sort of renaissance of wine quality that's happening in Livermore Valley right now. So if you haven't been to Livermore, this is really a great chance to experience a lot of great hospitality and wine quality that's going to surprise you. This is not your grandfather's Livermore Valley, people. You really need to see what's happening out in Livermore now. It's a magical place.
It really is. It's very exciting. I've been lucky enough to go out a couple of times. I've been to both Concannon Vineyards. We had a wonderful lunch, and I've also been to visit you a couple of times.
Thank you very much, by the way.
It really is fantastic. I mean, you will hopefully not be shocked, but you will be so happy with the different flavors of the wines, and really not just the history, but everything they're offering there. It is world class, and it's killer. And I keep going back, and so.
You should explain
the inside
this
joke
has
here.
Come up before
for
wine novices who.
I make a lot of noise when I drink wine.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I just very quick. I slurp a lot. So it's habit. I do it for water now too, and milk. I think also. But it's a way of kind of opening up what happens to your glass. So you have wine in your glass. Air is a great thing for wine in certain stages, and when you have wine in your glass, and in your mouth, if you can draw air into your mouth while you're tasting, it opens the wine up, gives you more a sense of the wine's wholeness or completeness or whatever. So that I know, and I listened to myself.
You and I were at an event just recently where we were both, I think, kind of called out. You were saying, why is Steven making all this noise? It was a group of wine and food writers.
Right.
And then I got up and was holding my glass this way. Somebody
cavalier.
raised their hand and he said, why do you hold your glass different than Steven? And so, these are all these little nuances.
It's funny because I think that ultimately the point that I would want to make about stuff like that is, there are too many barriers that are put in front of people enjoying wine.
Yep.
How you pronounce the name of the wine, what glass you should have it in, what the temperature should be like. The key thing about wine is enjoying the immense variety of flavors and textures and the like. And you will probably be compelled to dive deeper and deeper and deeper into wine the more you drink it, but you start by just enjoying what it is in your glass and not worrying about what the snooty sommelier or your friend who thinks he knows everything about wine says about what you're doing. The first responsibility for you is to enjoy what you're drinking, and that means make as much noise, have as much fun. We're not brain surgeons here.
No, it comes down to you use all your senses, like you said.
Exactly.
You pour a glass of wine, you inspect it. Are there any off colors? Number two, you smell it, you swirl it. The reason you swirl it is to get the flavors going in the bowl of the glass. You smell it, you taste it, and then you make a conclusion. Do I like it or don't I?
Right.
Can I afford it or can't I?
Right.
And that's and then it's who you're with, and that's the wonderful thing about wine. Yes.
Well, let's
everything.
put you on the spot. Why don't you smell it and slurp it and let us know if you like
Oh,
it.
I already have been. It's delicious. It's delicious. I'm enjoying it. And yes, it's very nice.
All the details for this event can be found at lvwine.org, and it's a perfect time and place to celebrate the harvest. Also, one of the slogans is it's closer than you think, and that's true. You can be there in 30, 40 minutes from San Francisco. It's easy to get there by BART, and there are tons of things to do when you get there. You can stay up late because there are all kinds of things opening up, a lot of young people around, and a lot of history. So it's a great place to be. Definitely stop by Steven Kent. Try the tiramisu there. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Long lineage in that as well. But let's go over to John Concannon. Your family has got a tremendous history in the Valley as well, and what a property. Anywhere from fantastic lunches to Shakespeare in the Park. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your history, and we can taste some of your wines. Or did we jump?
we jumped.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
Well, I just realized I was a little bit behind. I was so enthralled listening to Steven that I needed to drink up here.
We can get another glass.
There you go.
Well, I'm going to take a sip of this, too. Everyone please look away while I'm just going to dump this out.
Yeah, I will distract them.
That was my fault.
I was just really listening to Steven. It's just it's so great, the passion that he has with the family, and we certainly can relate to that as well with ours. My great grandfather came over from Ireland, Irish immigrant, and born on St. Patrick's Day, 1847. So we had that luck of the Irish from the get-go. And he comes to America in search of a better life, like immigrants before and after him, millions of them, and lands in San Francisco. Has a couple different business ventures. Was on the road a lot, and was friendly with Archbishop Alamany, who was Alamany Boulevard named after, and he encouraged him to get into the production of altar wine for the church. And all these different wine growing regions were available back then: Napa, Sonoma, Paso Robles, Central Valley. But they said, Alamany said, you plant here in Livermore. Why Livermore? And as Steven alluded to, the climate and the soil are very, very similar to the Bordeaux region in France. We're one of only two valleys that are oriented east and west, so we maximize that maritime influence coming through the Golden Gate Bridge. We have a 40-degree swing in temperature, so the grapes like that. Warm days elevate the sugars and acids, cool nights arrest and hold it. Soil-wise, 70% rock. We have a very even distribution of peat, gravel to rock. We sit literally on an alluvial fan, very similar to the Graves region in France. So the early pioneers, such as my great-grandfather, saw that this was very similar to the Bordeaux region in France. So they figured whatever grew well there would grow well here. So people like my great-grandfather went back to Chateau d'Yquem for the Sauternes, and then Chateau Margaux and Lafite for the clarets, the cabs, the merlots, the petites. Brought them back, and first great plantings in Livermore go back to 1847. So there is all this history there, and very much like Steven
First
said.
international gold medal, Sauvignon
Yep.
Blanc Semillon.
1889, Cresta
Paris
Blanca.
Exposition in
Did it
Paris.
long before,
The Paris
Anybody.
tasting.
Yeah.
Time magazine didn't exist in 1889.
some of the movies that were
unfortunately.
out, right? So all this history, very rich history, and that's the wonderful thing about Livermore is there's over 50 wineries. You can come out, and I think our slogan really is appropriate. We are closer than you think, and I constantly get that from people. We're 42 miles east of San Francisco, and we get a lot of people from the Santa Clara County, South Bay, that come out, and it's great because you can meet the owners, the winemakers, and I like to refer to it as casual elegance.
Yeah.
So.
It's a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
It's true. You really do meet the insiders when you get there. You meet the winemakers, the owners. You mentioned an alluvial fan as being a really important part about the valley. Would you mind telling us what that is exactly?
Well, it's an alluvial fan. It's basically a very even distribution of peat, gravel to rock. We have some drilling surveys that are in the tasting room that go in just over 600 feet deep. And so what it does is it allows every vine and every berry to ripen consistently. And then again, those warm days, cool nights, give that nice even rise of acidity and sugar in the berries. So those two things combined really, my great-grandfather referred to the Livermore Valley as the Grand Laboratory. And what he meant by that was that he felt, as well as others, that Livermore could make as good a quality wines as the Bordeaux region in France. And as Chris mentioned, that was proven in 1889 with Cresta Blanca winning a gold medal at the Paris Exposition.
Very cool. And so we're drinking Conservancy here.
Yeah.
Specifically, tell me a little bit about this, and then also I know you've got some famous clones that you guys have in common.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
what's
it's a great
what's
story.
going on with that, and then what's going on with the clones?
So send in the clones,
Send in the
right?
clones. You said it first.
Right, we were both thinking it, right, Steven?
Exactly.
So this is a line that I launched about 4 years ago called Conservancy. And another really important thing going on in Livermore is the Tri-Valley Conservancy Land Trust. Many wineries and other farm owners have gotten together. We saw some very disturbing trends coming on several years ago, and last year's census data confirmed it. Over 2 million acres a year of farmland are lost to urban development. And if you do the math, that's about 200 acres an hour. So think about this. We're 42 miles east of one of the most recognized cities in the world. And all of these wineries, all of these landowners gave up their land rights and put it in a land trust. So all of this land, all of this vineyard and agricultural land, when you come out to Livermore, has to remain agricultural for perpetuity. So again, conservancy to me is about preserving a way of life, our family, our heritage, our old winemaking techniques, but most importantly, our land. So all of the juice for these conservancy wines, we're drinking Petite Sirah here, comes from vineyard in that land trust.
Very cool.
So Petite, this is what we have, Petite Sirah. My father was the first to make that a varietal back in 1961. And Petite Sirah is a wonderful blending grape. It's also a great wine to drink in a varietal state. And there's really nothing petite about Petite Sirah. It's probably a terrible name.
It's a bigger name, bigger Syrah than Syrah.
Right. So Syrah, it's a hybrid of the Syrah, and then Pellerson is the flower. Petite refers to the smallness of the berry and the tightness of the bunch. So less juice, more skin. You get your skin and your flavor from the skin. So there are going to be deeper colors and flavors from it.
There's a great spice at the end of this. The finish is just fun and long. I mean, this is definitely the wine that I would recommend. He's about to slurp the heck out of it, I'm sure.
We'll wait
for that so that it doesn't overpower the conversation. But the clones that you have in common, 7, 8, and 11.
Yeah.
All right.
And Steven, he's been working a lot, really doing a lot to promote Cabernet. I really feel like we've got this unison effort here to really promote Cabernet coming from Livermore and what we can produce here. So from our standpoint, in 1965, my father, Jim, worked with UC Davis to make rootstock resistant to phylloxera, which is a root louse that's devastated California from the 1800s all the way up to Napa into the 80s. And so they took cuttings from one vine, took it back to Davis, heat treated and cloned it. They isolated it for 5 years, and in 1970 they released those cuttings to the nurseries. And they estimate that over 80% of all Cabernet Sauvignon comes from those Concannon clones. Also interesting from a Livermore standpoint, there's the Wente clone, and over 80%. So over 80% of the number 1 and number 2 selling varietal can be traced back to Livermore. Wow. So all this history.
It's amazing to the more we delve into what we're doing and what Livermore has done, the more you get to Livermore being the center of things in a lot of ways for California viticulture, our best clone of Cabernet that comes from Gilmedi Vineyard and base for lineage is Clone 30 Cabernet, the C clone from Napa, planted in the Stag's Leap. But he bought his material from Wente, which he bought the Concannon clone and planted his vineyard in the 50s. His clone really was Clone 7 already. Concannon clone from California, from Livermore Valley. So, what this Napa Valley origin for Cabernet can trace its roots back to Livermore Valley. First varietally labeled Petit Syrah was Concannon. Yep. First Sauvignon Blanc was Livermore Valley. Mm-hmm. Chardonnay, obviously Wente. Mm-hmm. A lot of the Sauvignon Blanc material that has made New Zealand famous makes its way from Livermore as well. So a lot of what's happened in the wine world is really Livermore centric. And while we get less attention than we think we deserve to have, the facts of the matter are that a lot of what the foundation of what California wine business is all about is about Livermore Valley. And what's exciting to me and sort of I think what really is the real message to send home to people is that the history of Livermore is great, but the future of Livermore is even greater, I think. And we're very excited about what that is going to do and give to wine-loving consumers over the next 5-10 years. So that's the very exciting part.
Well, go to lvwine.org. You can learn a lot more about the valley, about the history, and about the events that are coming up. The 33rd annual harvest celebration, all of these things. These guys are going to be partying, and these clones right here they're actually going to be.
Don't have the red nose. I'll have the big ears.
They're actually going to be hosting a ToutSuite show from each of their wineries coming up. So you won't have to deal with me. Chris may be there. That would be nice. But you're going to have these guys walk and talk and telling you about the history, about these places that we're talking about right now, from their homes, from their wineries, from the Livermore Valley. Gives you a chance to be a part of the history. So it's closer than you think. You can easily drive there yourself. But on your way, stop off, and watch these guys talk about what they're doing.
Absolutely. Show you around.
So bottoms up, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Sip it up because Chris has got another wine to talk about. And yeah, she's had no problem beating us. And she slurps so softly. It's like you don't even know what's happening, and then the wine is gone. It's very different from what I'm.
She's a very she's a delicate flower.
All right, so, you want to tell us?
So this next wine that we are going to taste is actually an award-winning Tempranillo. It is Las Casitas Vineyards. It's their 2011 Estate Tempranillo, and they just won Best Red of the Greater Bay Area and the California State Fair wine competition, and they also won Best of Show Red at the Alameda County Fair.
Nice.
And so I'm happy to share this wine with everybody today. Again, it goes to, it's a testament to what Livermore Valley can produce. There's such a variety, whether it's the Bordeaux blend varietals that Steven has brought today, or the Petit Syrah, the Conservancy Petit Syrah, which has a fantastic story of protecting the vineyards and reaching back to the history of Petit Syrah. And then this Tempranillo, traditionally Spanish varietal, that also does really well in the Livermore Valley terroir, the climate, the soils. It all works perfectly. And I think the recent awards that this Tempranillo has won shows very well. Yeah.
It just shows the temperate. I'm sorry. It shows the temperate quality and the breadth of what Livermore Valley is capable of growing well from a viticultural standpoint.
Right.
And it's the northern Spanish variety Rioja, the Tempranillo, the primary grape Rioja, you're seeing it more and more in Livermore now, and I think in certain parts of California, and it's neat to see people following their passion. We're not a monoculture, as it were, like Napa is with Cabernet. We should grow more Cabernet, I think. But that being said,
agreed.
There are a number of varieties that grow really, really well in Livermore, and they're different and they're fun, and this is a really fun wine.
There
are
a number of wineries in Livermore Valley that, whether you choose Bordeaux varietals, whether it's Rhone, Spanish, there's so many varietals that the climate is so suited for that. a number of the wineries have their own signature varietal that works really well for them or works on their property. So anyway, I think we've got a great representation here today. And the harvest goes back 130-something years now, even though this is only our 33rd year, actually officially celebrating the harvest. And it's Livermore Valley's Harvest Wine Celebration. It will be one day this year, Sunday, August 31st. From noon until 5, and there are 37 wineries that are celebrating at their wineries, and another 7 that are celebrating at Wente and Concannon are hosting several wineries there. And there's so many activities that are going on at each winery. There is an aroma bar at one of the wineries that will focus on a wine sensory evaluation. There's a blind tasting. There is a fly fishing demonstration. One of our newest wineries in Livermore Valley, named Caddis, is named after a particular fly and fly fishing, and they're going to have a professional fly fisherman there demonstrating proper technique on drink the wine and how to fly fish. And it's a very popular celebration that brings in people actually from all over the world to visit us in Livermore Valley. I think people make a destination out of coming to San Francisco for the weekend. They spend part of their weekend in Livermore Valley enjoying the wine there and meeting the winemakers and producers in the valley. It kicks off basically California Wine Month.
That's right. Which
starts September 1st. So we're the first event kicking things off.
Jumping a day early.
Yeah.
That's very appropriate.
And so there are a number of individual wineries that will have several events that celebrate California Wine Month as well. And we also do kind of a fun event as part of California Wine Month, which is called Sunset Sip and Shop. We have Livermore Premium Outlets there, which are, they're new, but they're renowned and you can taste wine from 16 producers, sip and shop while the sun sets.
Oh, that's dangerous.
In Livermore
That's a lot of
Valley.
fun.
It
Sounds like fun.
It is. We did one last year, and it was extremely popular, and we decided to bring it back as a part of California Wine Month.
As a matter of fact, every one of these outfits was purchased under the influence at the Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. Well, again, lbwine.org is the place to go and find out all of these things, learn the history, and all about the Concannon family and the Concannon Vineyards. And, I mean, again, they've got everything from Shakespeare to Underdog Wine Bar, where, I mean, we had a killer lunch. I'm talking farm to table, as good as it gets. And, of course, Steven Kent. I mean, they are two of my favorites. I've been to the Valley a number of times. And one thing, while it is closer than you think to where you are, it's also that the wineries are so close to each other. In terms of proximity, it's so easy to get from one to the next. And then the wines are going to be so different, as she pointed out. As Chris pointed out, each of the wines really do have, wines and wineries have a specialty, and that specialty from Tempranillo to the blends that we're talking about here, it's an exciting place to be, and each of you do have a wonderful specialty, and so it's a killer place to be. lbwine.org, going through. Steven Kent, one last thing to say, about what you guys are doing and what you want them to experience coming up.
We want you to have a great time. We want you to really to love the wines that we do, to hopefully share the passion that we have for what it is that we're doing, for what Livermore Valley shows people, and the kind of underdog status that we're, I think, overcoming rapidly. It's about sharing, about being with your friends and family and having something great to drink.
Yep.
All right, John?
I took ditto. I concur. It's all about the wine experience. Visiting a winery is the number 2 destination for a visitor to California. There's no other place that can offer the experience that a winery can. Good food, good wine, good company, beautiful romantic surroundings. So I like to say, Livermore, us, we're all about casual elegance.
Casual elegance. Yeah. Very nice. And Chris, you got to add something.
I would just bring it home with, come anytime, really. But Sunday, August 31st is our big celebration of the harvest. We will have had a blessing of the grapes prior to that. And I would just encourage everybody to ask at every winery they visit, what's your signature varietal? And that way you can explore sort of the breadth and depth and the variety that Livermore Valley is so good at doing.
I agree. And actually this wine that we're talking about, that we're drinking now, really exemplifies exactly what you said. It's quite a journey. It's bouncing around your mouth. The Tempranillo is a lot of fun. There's a lot of different flavors and a lot of things going on. And it's a lot of quality. And it's kind of what's going on in Livermore as far as I'm concerned. Just a ton of growth, a ton of things going on, a lot of history to the grape, but just so much fun and so much flavor. So lvwine.org, check it out. ToutSuite.com is where we are now. Come and visit us. Again, these clones are going to be out there. They're going to be talking about the wines. They're going to be talking about the grapes. They're going to be
clones or clowns?
What? Oh, have I been pronouncing that wrong this whole time? I'm sorry.
I resemble that remark.
I know. You resemble it. Don't mind. Here we are back to it. lvwine.org. Check it out. It is closer than you think. The places are great. They're diverse. The wines are wonderful, and so are the people. You can see that now. These guys are going to lead ToutSuite soon. Watch that show. Head out to the events and celebrate harvest in one of the first places in California ever to harvest grapes, Livermore Wine Country. Thank you for watching. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Woo!
Nicely done.